My ex-husband saw me on national television holding a golden cooking trophy in one hand and the keys to my new restaurant in the other. That was the first time he called me in 3 years. Not when he took the mansion. Not when he took the car. Not when he convinced a judge I was too unstable to care for my own children because I had no money, no job, and nowhere beautiful enough for them to sleep. Not when I cried outside the courthouse with an empty handbag, a broken heart, and $800 left in my account. Number. Darius Cole called me after the camera showed my face on TV, and the host said, "From a single food truck to a national brand, Naomi Bennett has become one of the most inspiring food entrepreneurs in America." That was when my phone rang. I was standing backstage with my apron still on, my hair wrapped in a red scarf, my hands smelling like smoked chicken, ginger, garlic, and victory. The screen behind me still showed the final dish that had changed everything. My grandmother's pepper rice bowl with honey-glazed plantains and slow-cooked beef. The same recipe Darius once called poor woman food. The same recipe his mother refused to eat at my dining table because she said it smelled too local. The same recipe that had just won me a national cooking competition, a restaurant partnership, and a business deal worth more than the mansion he took from me. My assistant, Grace, looked at my phone and froze. "Naomi," she whispered, "it's him." I looked down. Darius Cole. For 3 years, that name had lived in my phone like a scar I refused to touch. My children's father. My ex-husband. The man who walked into divorce court in a Navy suit, held Cassandra Vale's hand in the hallway, and told his lawyer to make sure I left with nothing. He had won that day. At least, he thought so. He got the mansion because his mother had helped him hide how much of my unpaid labor had built his business. He got the luxury SUV because it was in his company's name, though I used it every day to take the children to school. He got primary custody because he had money, a stable house, private school plans, and a lawyer who made my grief sound like failure. I got 2 weekends a month, an old suitcase, a few boxes of clothes, a used phone with a cracked screen, and $800. That was all. $800. People hear that and think it is too small to rebuild a life. They are right. It was too small. But it was enough to begin one. I stared at the ringing phone. Grace asked, "Are you going to answer?" The studio hallway was full of people congratulating me. Producers rushed past. Cameras rolled in another room. Reporters waited near the stage. My team from the food truck was cheering by the exit. My daughter, Lily, and my son, Micah, were watching from the family lounge with my mother. My mother. Not the woman who raised me. My real mother had died when I was young. I mean Mrs. Ruth, the old neighbor who took me in emotionally after my divorce when I had nowhere to go and no one left to call. She was the first person who said, "Baby, $800 can buy ingredients. Ingredients can become meals. Meals can become a line. A line can become a business." That woman saved my life with 1 sentence and a pot of rice. I looked at Darius's name flashing on my phone. Then I pressed decline. Grace smiled. "Good." I shook my head. "No, not good." Her smile faded. I looked toward the TV screen where they were replaying the moment I won. "It is not good yet," I said. "It is only beginning." Because Darius had not called to apologize. Men like Darius do not call after victory because they suddenly remember love. They call because they smell access. Before I continue, tell me where you are watching from tonight, and if anyone has ever taken everything from you and expected you to stay small, stay with this story. Because sometimes $800 is not the end. Sometimes it is the seed of the table they will one day beg to sit at. I married Darius Cole when I was 26. He was already rich, but not yet powerful. There is a difference. Rich men can buy comfort. Powerful men can make other people protect their comfort. Darius came from a respected family in Atlanta. His father had left him a real estate development company, 3 commercial buildings, and a mother named Patricia who believed her son was not just special, but chosen. Patricia Cole did not walk into rooms. She entered them like judgment-wearing pearls. The first time I met her, she smiled at me and said, "You are prettier than Darius described." I thought it was a compliment. It was not. It was a measurement. She looked at my simple dress, my natural hair, my old handbag, and the small gold bracelet my grandmother had left me. Then she asked, "What does your family do?" Not who are they? Not where are they from? What do they do? As if love needed a business license. I told her my parents were gone, and I had worked my way through school. Her smile softened in a way that did not feel kind. "Oh," she said, "a survivor." That was the first label she gave me. Later, she would use it against me. Darius loved me loudly in the beginning. He loved that I cooked, loved that I listened, loved that I could turn a refrigerator full of leftovers into dinner for 10 people, loved that I understood budgets because I had lived inside them, loved that I was not impressed by his money. "I need a woman like you," he told me once. Grounded. Grounded. I did not know yet that some men say grounded when they mean easy to keep below them. Still, I loved him. He was charming, generous, and intense in a way that made me feel chosen. He sent flowers to my office, took me to restaurants where waiters knew his name, talked about building a family, a legacy, a future where our children would never worry about rent or bills or empty refrigerators. I wanted that. Not the mansion, not the cars, the safety. I had grown up with loss. My father died before I was old enough to remember his voice properly. My mother worked herself into sickness and died when I was 19. Food had always been my language of survival. Cooking made rooms feel less empty. Feeding people made grief useful. When Darius proposed, I said yes because I believed we were building a home, not entering a contract where his name owned the walls. The mansion came after our first child, Lily, was born. It was beautiful. Too beautiful at first. White stone, high ceilings, sweeping staircase, guest rooms, a pool, a theater room, a kitchen so large I could hear my footsteps crossing it at night. Darius bought it in his name through a family trust. I did not question that enough. I was pregnant, tired, and in love. Patricia said, "This is how wealthy families protect assets." I thought assets meant safety. I did not know it could also mean exclusion. I made that mansion a home, not with money. With labor, I chose curtains, planned meals, hosted dinners for Darius's investors, packed his lunches before big meetings because he said my food calmed him, managed staff schedules, remembered birthdays, sent thank you gifts, raised Lily, then Micah, handled school forms, doctor appointments, birthday parties, allergies, homework, bedtime fears, and every little thing that makes childhood feel secure. Darius's company grew during those years. He liked to say he built it through vision. Maybe he did. But vision ate my food, slept under the routines I created, and wore clean shirts I remembered to send to the cleaners. When investors came over, I cooked. When city officials visited, I arranged the house. When Darius needed to charm a client, I prepared the dishes that made people lean back and say, "Who made this?" Darius would smile and say, "My wife likes playing chef." Playing. That word irritated me. Cooking was not play to me. It was skill, memory, discipline, culture. But in his world, unless something came with a business card and a high price, it became a hobby. My food became famous in his circle. Not my name, my food. People requested my pepper rice, my roasted fish, my plantain bites with chili honey, my chicken stew, my cornbread pudding, my ginger tea. Darius used my table to close deals. Then complained when I suggested turning my cooking into a business. "A food business?" he said one night, laughing over his whiskey. "Naomi, you are not serious." "I am. You have 2 children. I know. You have a staff to manage. I know. You live in a mansion. Why would you stand over stoves for strangers?" I looked at him. "Because I want something that is mine." His smile disappeared. "There it is." "What?" "That independent woman thing." I stared at him. Wanting a business is not an attack on you. It is when you already have everything. Everything. The mansion in his trust. The car in his company's name. The accounts controlled by his office. The reputation attached to his last name. The life I maintained but did not own. I had comfort. But comfort without control is just a beautiful cage. Cassandra Vale entered our lives through Darius's newest development project. She was a public relations consultant with perfect hair, sharp dresses, and the kind of voice that made rich men believe they were more interesting than they were. Patricia loved her immediately. "She understands our world," Patricia said. Our world. As if I had been living in a guest room inside it for 8 years. Cassandra began attending meetings, then dinners, then charity events, then weekends. She praised Darius in public and corrected him softly in private, like she had already earned the right. I saw the affair before anyone confessed. Women often do. Not because we are magical, because betrayal changes the air. Darius started working late, guarding his phone, criticizing my clothes, saying I smelled like onions after cooking, telling me I was too focused on the children, too emotional, too ordinary. Then one night, I found a necklace receipt in his jacket. Diamond. Not mine. I confronted him in the kitchen after the children slept. He did not deny it for long. His first response was anger, then blame, then pity. "Naomi," he said, "we grew apart." "No," I said, "you walked." He sighed like I was disappointing him by not making betrayal easy. "Cassandra sees me. I saw you before she knew where to look." He looked away. That was the beginning of the end. The divorce came fast because Darius had prepared it before telling me. That is another kind of cruelty. Letting someone live inside a marriage while you are already building the exit. His lawyers were brutal. They painted me as unstable because I cried. Dependent because I had been a stay-at-home mother. Unemployed because my unpaid labor did not count. Emotionally reactive because I was angry that my husband cheated. They argued the children needed continuity, and continuity meant the mansion, the school, the drivers, the tutors, the wealthy routines. I argued they needed their mother. The judge gave Darius primary custody with generous visitation. Generous. A word that tastes bitter when applied to your own children. I got weekends, some holidays, and scheduled calls. The mansion remained his. The car remained his. The accounts were complicated, protected, delayed, disputed. My settlement after initial expenses and debts left me with almost nothing immediately accessible. $800. That was what I had when I walked out. Lily was 6. Micah was 4. Lily cried when I packed. "Mommy, are you going far?" I knelt and held her. "No, baby, I will always come back." "Why can't we come?" Darius stood in the doorway, watching. Silent. Cassandra was not there, but her perfume lived in the hallway. I looked at Darius. He looked away. Micah held my leg and said, "Take my dinosaur." He placed his small green toy in my suitcase. I still have it. The first night after leaving, I slept in a cheap motel by the highway. The room smelled like bleach and old smoke. The curtains did not close properly. The air conditioner rattled. I sat on the bed holding Micah's toy dinosaur and cried until my face hurt. Then my phone rang. It was Mrs. Ruth. She lived across from the mansion's service entrance, in a small old house that had somehow survived every developer who wanted the land. She had helped me with the children when they were little. She was 71, blunt, and kind in the way people become kind after life has taken everything unnecessary from them. "Where are you?" she asked. I tried to sound normal. "Resting. Don't lie to old women. We were young before you were born." I broke down. She listened, then said, "Come here." "I can't." "You can drive?" "Yes." "Then you can come." "I don't have a car." Silence. "Then, where are you?" An hour later, Mrs. Ruth arrived in a faded blue pickup truck older than my marriage. She was wearing slippers, a headscarf, and a coat over her nightgown. She looked at the motel, then at me. Then said, "Absolutely not." She took me to her house. It had 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, yellow kitchen curtains, a porch full of plants, and a smell that reminded me of stew, soap, and safety. She gave me the spare room. The bed creaked. The blanket was thin. It was the first place after divorce where I slept without feeling owned. The next morning, she made coffee and asked, "How much money do you have?" I whispered, $800. She nodded like I had said 8,000. Good. I stared at her. Good? Yes. Empty would be worse. I laughed for the first time in weeks. She opened her pantry. Rice, beans, flour, spices, oil, onions, dried peppers, a few canned tomatoes. She pointed at the table. "What can you make with this?" I looked at the ingredients. My grandmother's pepper rice. What else? Stew bowls, fried plantains, spiced chicken if I can buy meat, fish cakes if I can get cheap fish. Mrs. Ruth smiled. Then we start there. We? Yes, I'm old, not decorative. That was how the food truck began. Not as a truck at first, as a folding table outside Mrs. Ruth's house on Saturday afternoons. We called it Naomi's Kitchen. Because Mrs. Ruth said simple names age better, I used $300 for ingredients, containers, napkins, and permits for a small local vendor setup. The rest I guarded like oxygen. Mrs. Ruth spread the word through church ladies, nurses, bus drivers, mechanics, and every person she knew who loved food more than gossip. The first day, we sold out in 3 hours. Not because I was famous, because the food was good. Real good. The kind of good that makes people stop talking after the first bite. The kind that carries memory. The kind that tells people someone cared before the plate reached them. A mechanic named Jerome came back twice. A nurse bought 6 bowls for her night shift. A teacher cried after tasting the plantains because they reminded her of her mother. At the end of the day, I had doubled my ingredient money. I cried again. But this time, the tears did not taste like defeat. They tasted like steam rising from rice. Every weekend, we cooked. During the week, I looked for work, handled legal meetings, saw my children when allowed, and tried to build enough stability to fight for more custody later. Seeing Lily and Micah on weekends hurt in ways I cannot fully explain. They would run into my arms at the pickup location, smelling like the mansion, expensive soap, and childhood moving on without me. Lily would ask, "When can we sleep at your house?" I would look at Mrs. Ruth's spare room and say, "Soon." Micah would ask, "Do you still have Dinosaur?" I would say, "Always." Darius made visitation difficult without breaking rules clearly enough for court. Late drop-offs, early pickups, forgotten backpacks. Schedule changes, comments through the children. "Daddy says your house is very small." Grandma Patricia says food trucks are dirty. Cassandra says she can help me dress for school pictures. That last one nearly broke me. Another woman dressing my daughter for photos while I sold rice from a folding table. I called Vivian Hart. She was the lawyer Mrs. Ruth recommended after saying, "You need someone who scares polished fools." Vivian reviewed my custody file and said, "You were outlawyered, not proven unfit." I cried in her office. She handed me tissues and continued. "We need stability, income, records, housing, and documented co-parenting interference. Do not fight emotionally. Build evidence. Build." That word saved me. So I built. The folding table became a tent. The tent became a weekend stall at a local market. A local food blogger posted about my pepper rice bowls. Then a video went viral. Not huge viral, neighborhood viral. Enough for lines to form. A used food truck came up for sale 8 months after my divorce. It was ugly, peeling paint, old fryer, weak generator, a faded sign from a failed taco business. But it ran, mostly. The owner wanted $8,000. I had $3,000 saved. Mrs. Ruth sold a set of old gold bangles and gave me 2,000. I refused. She threatened to slap me with a dish towel. Jerome the mechanic helped inspect the truck and negotiated the price down. A nurse from the market started a small community pre-order campaign. People bought meal vouchers before the truck existed. By the end of the month, I had enough. We painted the truck yellow and red. Naomi's Kitchen. Under the name, Mrs. Ruth added a line I did not approve at first. Food made from fire, not fear. She said, "That line is you." She was right. The food truck changed everything slowly. Then, suddenly, weekday lunch spots, office parks, hospital parking lots, school events, community festivals, night markets. I hired 2 women part-time, then 3. I rented a tiny apartment, then a better one, with 2 bedrooms so Lily and Micah could finally sleep over. The first night they stayed, Lily stood in her room and touched the blanket. "This is mine here?" "Yes." "For when I come?" "Yes." She hugged me so hard I could barely breathe. Micah placed his dinosaur on the windowsill and said, "He lives here too." I cried in the bathroom later, quietly, because sometimes joy needs privacy too. Darius noticed the business when other people started mentioning it. At first, he mocked it. Then he ignored it. Then, when lines formed near his office building one Friday, he called, "Naomi, why is your truck downtown?" "Because people eat downtown. You know what I mean." "No, Darius. I stopped doing that for you." He hated that. Cassandra hated the truck more. Not because of food. Because people liked me. People took photos. Tagged me. Praised me. Called me hardworking. Creative. Strong. The same words Darius once used before he needed me smaller. When my income became steady, Vivian filed to revisit custody. This time, we had records. Stable housing. Business income. School involvement. Darius's interference. Children's statements through appropriate channels. No drama. Evidence. The court expanded my time. Not full custody yet. But more. Weeknights. Longer holidays. Shared decisions. Darius walked out of court furious. "You're turning this into a war." I looked at him. "No, I'm turning it back into motherhood." The food truck kept growing. One truck became 2. Then a small commercial kitchen. Then wholesale sauce jars. Then catering. Then a call from a producer for a national cooking competition called America's Table Rising. I thought it was a scam. Grace, who had started as my cashier and become my operations manager, screamed when the email came. "Naomi, this is real." I almost said no. The thought of being on TV terrified me. I was used to feeding people, not performing for cameras. Mrs. Ruth said, "Baby, your food has carried you this far. Let it speak where you are scared." So I went. The competition was hard. Bright lights, judges, timers, other chefs with restaurant training and clean biographies. I had a food truck, a divorce file, and recipes built from survival. The first episode, I nearly burned the plantains. The second, I cut my finger slightly and kept cooking. The third, a judge asked why my food felt so personal. I said, "Because it fed me when I had nothing else to stand on." That clip went viral. People began following the truck across cities. Lily and Micah watched every episode. Darius did not mention it. Until the finale. The final challenge was to cook a dish that told the story of home. I made my grandmother's pepper rice bowl with honey-glazed plantains, slow-cooked beef, crispy onions, and a sauce inspired by the first stew I cooked at Mrs. Ruth's house after leaving the motel. When I plated it, my hands shook. Not from fear, from memory. The judges tasted in silence. One of them closed her eyes. Another wiped his mouth slowly. The host asked, "Naomi, what does this dish mean?" I looked into the camera. This dish is for every woman who had to start over with less than she deserved. It says you can be stripped down to $800 and still build flavor, fire, and a future. The room stood. I cried. The host announced my win 10 minutes later. My children ran onto the stage. Lily hugged my waist. Micah shouted, "Mommy won!" Mrs. Ruth cried so hard her headscarf slipped. Grace jumped like we had won the Super Bowl. Then came the prize. A national restaurant partnership, a cookbook deal, investment to expand Naomi's kitchen into permanent locations, and a feature interview the next morning. That was the TV moment Darius saw. The host asked, "What would you say to the people who doubted you?" I smiled. "I hope they eat well." People laughed. But I meant it. I did not need Darius hungry. I needed him irrelevant. My phone rang after the interview. "Darius." I declined. He called again. Declined. Then he texted, "We need to talk." I replied, "About the children, email me. About anything else, no." He wrote, "I'm proud of you." I stared at that message for a long time, then deleted it. Not because I was unmoved, because I had learned not to feed on crumbs from people who once starved me. 2 days later, he showed up at my first restaurant site. It was still under renovation. Walls unfinished, floors dusty, workers installing lights. A giant sign leaned against the wall. Naomi's Kitchen House. Darius walked in wearing a suit, looking around like he was searching for the woman he used to control. He found someone else. I wore jeans, boots, and a yellow apron dusted with flour. Grace saw him first and moved toward me. "It's him." "I know." Darius approached slowly. "Naomi." "Darius." He looked at the space. "This is impressive." "Yes." "You did all this." "Yes." He swallowed. "I saw you on TV. I figured. You looked happy." "I am." That answer hurt him. I saw it. Not because he wanted me happy. Because he had expected my happiness to remain dependent on what he took. He said, "I made mistakes." I looked at him. "For what specifically?" His face tightened. That question always separates apology from performance. He breathed out. "For the divorce, for taking things too far, for letting my mother and Cassandra influence me, for making you look unstable, for fighting so hard for the kids." "The kids were not property, Darius." "I know." "Do you?" He looked down. "I think I do now." I waited. He continued. "I was angry. You wanted something of your own, and I felt like you were pulling away. Cassandra made me feel like I deserved a different life." "No, she gave you permission to take the one you already wanted." He flinched. Maybe because it was true. He said, "Cassandra is gone." I did not ask. She left after the money problems started. I almost laughed. "Of course she did." Darius continued. "The company is under pressure. The house is expensive. Mom moved in. Things are not what people think." I folded my arms. "And now?" He looked around again. I wondered if we could talk about partnership. There it was. Not love. Not apology. Partnership. I smiled. "What kind?" His eyes lit slightly, mistaking the question for interest. "You have a strong brand. I have development experience. We could expand Naomi's Kitchen into luxury food halls, airport locations, maybe franchise models. I could help you avoid mistakes." Grace made a small sound behind me. I raised one hand without turning. I looked at Darius. "You took the mansion, car, and tried to take the children. Now you want the food truck too?" His face reddened. "That's not fair." "No, it is accurate. I'm trying to help. You are trying to enter after the line formed." He looked wounded. "I was your husband." "You were." "I'm the father of your children." "Yes, that gives you a role in their lives, not equity in mine." He stepped closer. "Naomi, don't let bitterness make you stupid." The old tone returned. There he was. The man beneath the apology. Grace moved, but I stopped her again. I smiled at Darius. There it is. What? The reason I will never do business with you. His jaw clenched. You think TV makes you better than me? No, surviving you did. He stared at me. I continued. Leave my restaurant. He laughed bitterly. Your restaurant. Yes. Mine. Not your trust. Not your company. Not your mother's idea. Not Cassandra's brand. Mine. A worker nearby stopped drilling. Darius noticed the room watching him. That always mattered to him. He straightened his suit. This attitude will cost you. No, Darius, this attitude bought the building. His face went cold. He left. But the story was not over. Men like Darius do not accept closed doors until the lock embarrasses them. A week later, his lawyer sent a letter claiming my food business used recipes developed during our marriage and therefore might be considered part of marital intellectual property. Vivian laughed for almost 30 seconds. That frightened me more than anger would have. Can he claim that? I asked. He can claim he invented the moon. It does not make him NASA. Still, we responded carefully. My recipes came from my grandmother, my mother, Mrs. Ruth, and my own work after divorce. Business formed after separation. Capital came from me, Mrs. Ruth's documented contribution, community pre-orders, revenue, loans, and later investors. Darius had no role except mockery, which Vivian said had limited asset value. We included copies of messages where he called the food truck embarrassing. One text said, "Enjoy selling rice in parking lots." Vivian highlighted that line. Beautiful, she said. Beautiful? Evidence with seasoning. The claim disappeared quickly. Then custody shifted again. Darius's house was no longer as stable as he had claimed. The mansion had debt tied to it. His company was under pressure. His mother's presence made the children uncomfortable. Cassandra's departure had left emotional wreckage, and he had begun traveling more, leaving the kids with staff while objecting when I requested extra time. Vivian filed again. This time, the court listened differently. I had stable housing, a growing business, flexible support, documented involvement. The children were older and able to express their feelings appropriately. Lily said she wanted to spend more time with me because Mom listens without making everything about being perfect. Micah said he liked Dad's house, but Mom's place feels like food and laughing. The judge granted shared custody with equal time. Darius looked stunned. I cried in the hallway, but quietly. Vivian said, "That is a good cry." Yes. Hydrate after victory. That woman. The restaurant opened 6 months after the TV win. The line wrapped around the block. Mrs. Ruth cut the ribbon. Not a mayor. Not a celebrity. Mrs. Ruth. She wore a purple dress and gold earrings, holding scissors like a queen with a sword. I stood beside Lily and Micah. Grace stood behind me, crying. The sign above us shone bright. Naomi's Kitchen House. Inside, one wall displayed the story of the first $800. Not the divorce details, not Darius's name, just the journey. From folding table, to food truck, to market stall, to national stage, to home. Underneath, I wrote, started with $800 and a recipe nobody could take. People took pictures of that wall every day. Women messaged me, single mothers, divorce survivors, women starting over at 40, 50, 60, women who lost houses, women who lost status, women who lost friends, women whose ex-husbands took cars, accounts, and confidence. They wrote, I needed this. So I started a foundation called 800 Beginnings. It gave small grants to women rebuilding after divorce or financial control, not huge checks, practical help, business licenses, food permits, childcare for training days, work shoes, laptops, commercial kitchen deposits, legal consultations. People underestimate small money when it reaches the right hands at the right time. $800 cannot buy a mansion, but it can buy ingredients. It can buy a table. It can buy proof. And proof can buy tomorrow. Darius came to the restaurant 1 year after opening. This time, not for partnership. With the children. It was Lily's birthday week, and she had asked to eat there with both parents. I agreed because the children deserved peace more than my pride needed drama. Darius arrived quietly. No suit. No Cassandra. No Patricia. Just him, Lily, Micah, and a tired smile. He looked around at the packed restaurant, at the staff moving smoothly, at customers laughing, at the open kitchen where cooks prepared dishes from recipes he once dismissed. He sat at the table. When the food came, he tasted the pepper rice. For a moment, he closed his eyes. Then he looked at me. "I was wrong," he said. I did not answer right away. The children were coloring menus. Grace stood nearby, pretending not to listen. Darius continued. "This food was always something. I was too proud to see it." I looked at him. "Yes. I'm sorry. For what specifically?" He smiled sadly. "You still ask that. I still need it." He nodded. "For calling your cooking a hobby. For using your labor and calling it support. For letting my mother disrespect you. For choosing Cassandra. For taking the house and car like winning mattered more than fairness. For letting the court believe money made me the better parent. For making the kids live inside my pride." That apology was better than I expected. Late. But better. "I hear you," I said. He nodded. "I know that doesn't fix it." "No. But I want to co-parent better. That is the only conversation I am interested in having with you." "I know." And for once, he accepted the limit. Years passed. Naomi's kitchen grew into 5 restaurants, then 10 food trucks, then a line of sauces sold in grocery stores. The cookbook became a bestseller. The TV show led to more appearances. People called me inspiring, but I never forgot that inspiration often looks like crying over bills before anyone claps. The mansion was eventually sold. Darius could not keep it. That news did not make me happy the way younger Naomi might have hoped. It made me quiet. That house had held my children's first steps. Yes. Their birthday parties. Their bedtime stories. It had also held my erasure. When it sold, Lily asked if I was sad. I thought about it. "A little," I said. "But not because I wanted it back." "Why then?" "Because sometimes a place can hold good memories and bad memories at the same time." She nodded. "Like Dad?" "That child." "Yes," I said softly. "Like Dad." Darius moved into a smaller house. He became a better father after losing the stage. Not perfect. Better. Sometimes people need to lose the big rooms to hear the small voices. Patricia never fully apologized. She once told me, "You did well for yourself." I smiled and said, "I did well because I stopped listening to people who said it like surprise." She did not speak to me for 2 months. Peaceful months. Cassandra married someone else rich, divorced him, and became a lifestyle coach online. Grace sent me one of her videos once. I told her never to do that again unless she wanted me to season the phone with hot oil. Mrs. Ruth lived long enough to see the 3rd restaurant open. At the ribbon cutting, she sat in a chair because her knees were weak, but her mouth was strong as ever. She told reporters, "I knew this girl could cook before the world knew how to chew right." That quote went viral. When she passed the following year, I named the training kitchen after her. The Ruth House Kitchen. Every woman in the 800 Beginnings program cooked there at least once. On the wall, we painted her words. Ingredients can become meals. Meals can become a line. A line can become a business. Below it, smaller. Do not despise the first pot. That became my favorite lesson. People see success when the cameras arrive. They do not see the first pot. The borrowed kitchen. The old pickup. The crying after court. The children asking when they can sleep over. The cracked phone. The $800. The woman staring at rice, wondering if dignity can be rebuilt one bowl at a time. It can. Slowly. Painfully. Honestly. It can. My ex-husband took the mansion, the car, and the kids. I built a food truck with $800. Then he saw me on TV. But the TV was not the miracle. The miracle was what happened before anyone watched. The miracle was Mrs. Ruth arriving at the motel. The miracle was the first customer buying 2 bowls. The miracle was Lily sleeping in her little room at my apartment. The miracle was Micah's dinosaur on the windowsill. The miracle was not answering Darius when he called after the cameras. The miracle was learning that the life he took was not the only life available to me. If you are listening and you are starting over with almost nothing, hear me clearly. Nothing is not always nothing. Sometimes it is space. Sometimes it is a clean table. Sometimes it is the absence of people who kept calling your gifts small. Sometimes it is $800 and a recipe. Do not let people who stripped you decide what you can rebuild. Do not let a lost mansion make you ignore a borrowed room. Do not let a taken car make you forget your feet still move. Do not let limited custody make you believe you are less of a mother. Do not let shame make you hide the gift that could feed your future. Start small if small is all you have. Sell 1 plate. Write 1 plan. Make 1 call. Save 1 receipt. Ask 1 safe person for help. Build 1 proof at a time. And when the people who left you with crumbs come back asking for a slice, remember who was there when the oven was cold. Today, I no longer live in a mansion. I live in a warm home with a big kitchen, a garden, and a porch where Lily and Micah eat mango popsicles in summer. My car is not the luxury SUV Darius kept. It is better, because my name is on it. My children spend equal time with me now, and sometimes they complain that I make them chop vegetables for family dinner. Good. Children should know food does not appear by magic. Darius and I co-parent carefully. Not as friends exactly. As 2 people who finally understand that the children are not trophies. The restaurants are busy. The trucks still roll. The first ugly yellow and red truck sits behind the main restaurant, restored and shining like a queen who survived war. Every year, on the anniversary of our first market sellout, I sit inside that truck alone for 10 minutes. I touch the steering wheel. I thank God. I thank Mrs. Ruth. I thank the woman who cried in the motel and still woke up the next morning. Then I go back inside and cook, because that is where my life returned to me. Not in the mansion, not in the courtroom, not on TV, in the kitchen, with fire, with food, with hands that refused to stay empty. Darius once took everything he thought made me valuable. Then he saw me on TV and realized he had only taken the things outside me, the mansion, the car, the image, the control. But he could not take the recipe. He could not take my hands. He could not take my hunger to build. He could not take the mother my children still ran to. He could not take the woman who turned $800 into a line around the block. And he could not take the peace I found when I stopped trying to be welcome in a life that had already pushed me out. My name is Naomi Bennett. I started with $800, and I fed my way back home.